One more clip. This is from Tucker Carlson's program. There's a warning here that DSA and Bernie Brothers and Antifa are going to force the hand of a lot of would-be weekend warriors in this country. Here is Tucker Carlson trying to warn us of this with Brian Dean Wright. He is a former CIA official, I guess. I'm not sure what that means, but.
Is that the nation is panicking. 71% of us want the National Guard in our cities tonight. 58% of us want the military in our cities tonight. All right, the people are panicking. The country is on fire. Now, who is attacking us? Mr. Esper should know this.
Right.
It's Antifa, Department of Justice, NYPD. Others are saying this very clearly. These are people, by the way, that we faced back in the 1960s and 70s and early 80s. These were people who were far leftist, Marx, Lenin, folks who embraced that ideology. They allied with Black Panther movements, and it took many years to finally put it down. Very dangerous. And now this same group, who is allied, by the way, with the Democratic Socialists, we're talking to Bernie Bros and Ms. Ocasio-Cortez, they're back. They're back with firebombs. They're back with bricks in our suburbs and our downtowns. That's something that Mr. Esper clearly doesn't understand. And then finally, we have a media that is feeding this flame, this horrific fire, this seditiousness. You have brought this up many times, including tonight. Let me read a headline from Slate magazine. Just yesterday, it said the following. Peaceful protests are an important tool, but so is violence. So now we have a media filling the airways full of this crap.
Yeah.
Put it all together. And the piece that you mentioned, no more police because we're going to defund those folks. We can't put forward the National Guard because that would be escalation. So now we take off the military from the table. What does that leave, Tucker? Let me tell you what it leaves. Vigilante justice.
That's exactly
It's you
right.
and me and everybody watching this program arming ourselves. Is that how we run a republic? No, sir, it is not. And you do not want a country that goes there. And that is precisely where the nation is headed. And we need for all of our leadership to understand that. And if Secretary Esper doesn't get it, doesn't understand that the oath is to protect ourselves from threats, both foreign and domestic, by God, get the hell out of the Pentagon and let somebody lead who gets it.
Man doth protest too much.
Watched cable news program probably from last night. That's all.
God.
I like the former CIA officer explaining how violence is not a tool that we should use.
Right?
Yeah, right? Glass houses, dude. I mean, I don't know whether to laugh or cry about this because it is funny. Like, it's a funny idea that Antifa and the DSA are both like paramilitary wings of the Democratic Party.
Bernie Bros, too.
Somehow, yes, the Bernard brothers as well. They're like the Brothers of Islam or something. But yeah, I also don't want to get shot by a chud with an AR-15 when I'm out protesting. So
we've seen a decent amount of clips of that, and we've seen, there's a lot of guys who are out there. I mean, both, obviously unstable, i.e. the guy showing up with a bow and arrow in the middle of the thing to protect people.
Or the folks who killed Ahmaud Arbery. I mean, just to forget, exactly. I mean, we're forgetting that vigilante justice has been well established, even in the police forces. That's part of the problem. And this, the idea of a CIA person having the gall to show their face on television after all of the litany of crimes against the American people by that agency. I mean, there's no less credible voice for how to keep anybody safe or secure than anyone from the CIA. I mean, that is the agency in the U.S. government with the bloodiest hands.
And he's criticizing the military for not being militaristic enough.
Right. I mean, it's terrifying.
It seems bad that they're just blatantly doing it out in the open too, right? Just like when the cops beat people up on camera. Yep. They don't care. They want you to see it so that you get scared and go home.
Apparently that guy's been on the Rubin Report quite a bit.
There was a point where he was talking about the airwaves spewing. I think he had a more colorful word than bile. But it's just interesting that given that was Tucker's show that was spewing such bile, just that moment in the interview, I was like, wow, you must be even more self-aware than you seem.
I mean, this has been, this is probably a technique that has been around for a lot longer than this, but this has been like the dynamic over the past a couple of years. Like, we're going to go directly, whatever we're doing, we're going to directly accuse of being done. I mean, it seems to me, we hear a lot of like this sort of argument that there is a vast network of Antifa and Bernie Brothers and DSA folks coordinating through these protests. But I really do get the sense, I mean, this came out sort of in the years following Occupy, and there was some reporting contemporaneous, but it really took a couple of months, and then it just sort of leaked out, was the level of coordination through these DHS fusion centers around the country in terms of sharing, like these like coffee clatches where it's like they come in and share techniques and strategies, but it seems they have honed that, like the kettling that has gone on from small, medium, and large cities. The same strategy. 20 minutes before the curfew, you block in a group of folks, and then you beat the hell out of them, and they're not going to show up tomorrow. That seems to be the strategy that they're pursuing. And it seems to be, I don't know that it's coordinated, but there definitely seems to be a sharing of techniques and strategies. And it also is indicative of like the weakness of our elected leaders, that we don't have different places going like, hell no, we're not doing that. I mean, there's a couple, but we're not seeing a lot of that.
Yeah. Well, they're scared to admit that they have no control over the police. Yeah. It's basically what it comes down to. I mean, it's bad enough that the police are the violent arm of the state. It's even worse when they become a violent arm that is somewhat autonomous, because then there's absolutely no accountability and no reigning in their power. But like, we see now that the state can't reign in their power. So like, that's points to me in an abolitionist direction once again, that this institution cannot be reformed. It's like ICE. It's like an older version of ICE. That's how I think of the cops.
Well, and it's especially sharp when we think about federal deployments, because federal troops and agencies are formally unaccountable to local communities. There's no even pretense of accountability. Whereas at least when you talk about local police forces, there's a theoretical control, and we've seen how merely theoretical and not sufficient it is in the federal context. When you have the National Guard, or you've got the DEA, or any of those agencies that were deployed in Washington, nobody, especially when the badges are covered and you don't know who they report to, there's no even pretense of accountability. That is formally authoritarian, not just tacitly so. And I think it's important to consider these things in a historical arc. I think in the United States, many Americans have long taken any number of things for granted. And Eisenhower warned us on national television in 1961 to take nothing for granted. And he warned us of this moment 65 years ago. He said that a combination of security and the profit motive will lead to predation on democracy and our rights. And he said that we should be knowledgeable and alert to keep it from happening. And we haven't been knowledgeable. We certainly haven't been alert. Everything he warned about has come to pass 10 different ways. And at the moment, what we are witnessing is the result of us taking for granted things that we were warned not to, among them, the right to make it home at night.
Yeah. Well, without a strong labor movement, without a strong civil rights movement, we do not have the class power or the class forces necessary to institute the kinds of transformative changes that would actually help keep people safe in their communities. I'm talking a massive redistribution of wealth from the rich to the poor, at the very least, investing in jobs, housing, healthcare, all of those things. Absent that, and it's cheaper. I just want to mention this one more time because I feel like I have said it already. But if you look at how much the welfare state costs, even the very terrible attenuated version of it that we have now, it's more than it costs to police people, right? Because you're only looking at a smaller percentage of the population that the police interact with for a shorter period of time in their lives. Whereas even means-tested programs have to help everybody below a certain income level. So it's not hard to see why they went with this option. especially at a time when the rate of profit was falling. I'm talking about the crisis of the 1970s. But we have to undo it. And the only way that we can undo it is to move to a world where these kinds of policies are not overdetermined by the market. And that's going to take a lot of class power, which I see rising every day. Like, I'm inspired by what's going on.